Start streaming. I will also So we import the path, we have views to create. What should we do next? So this is where things are going to be a little bit different. We're going to use something called, it's called class-based views, right? What we have been using is called function-based views. So we're just going to look up Django class-based views generics. So what class-based views allow us to do is to just have massive functionality with very, very little code, right? So it's going to sort of automate all the stuff we did yesterday. So we want to look for a create view. We're going to look up create view Django. We're going to search. Yep, here we go. And here they have an example. So it looks like what we need to. So this is how we can import it. And we're going to just essentially follow this little segment of documentation, which I can paste in Slack. Paste. So we're going to grab this. And we have, this should be familiar to you guys. This was also the standard that was used on day 2, I believe, with the serializers. So what is our model name? Well, they're importing their model, which is called author. Oh. Right, our model is not called author. It's called post. So, but that does lead to the next thing we need to do. What do we need to do? There are 3 things that need to be changed currently. Or 4. What is it? Okay. So from models import post. Let's change that to post create. We want to change our model there. And what fields do we have? Title and body. Okay. So this looks good. Let's go see what the next part in the documentation is. Cool. So we have our views, and then it's saying we have my app author form.html. So we're literally just going to copy this, and we're going to go make a post underscore form.html. So blog, folder, templates. And we might actually have to specify the template in post create because it looked like they did it in the root of their app, but we don't want to do that. It's sort of cluttered. And we're just going to call this post form.html. We're just going to paste this in. Okay. And that's everything they have listed here. So let's go to our, so let's run our app. Yes. Email him to do, like, right?
Yeah.
What does he need to be emailed?
He just said the online receipt.
Oh, like he can't get the food currently?
He said if he doesn't shut, it's not going to get picked.
Okay. One sec. Cool. It's emailed. Yeah, exactly. We need to make migrations. Oh, but we're having an error here. Views is not defined. Oof. Have. Okay. So let's do here. So from blog.views. Oh, actually. Import blog.views as views. Cool. So we should be good to go. Has no attribute create. That is. Oh, it's post create. So we're putting post create here. Ah. Cool. And let's migrate now. Cool. And now we're ready to run our server. Okay, we'll go to blog/create. And it takes one positional argument, but two were given. Okay, so we've had an error here. Now the one part that we didn't look at in the documentation, we looked at the views, we looked at the template, so I'm going to say I don't think that's where the error is. I think it's in the URLs. So we're going to look at URLs, Django, class, based views. I already clicked on this. Okay, so it looks like for and what you can essentially think of in this case is that the path is expecting for the second argument to be a function. What asView is doing is just creating something that is callable that's going to sort of trigger our create view or any class-based view. So we're going to say asView. Cool. That I believe is specific for the template view. But we're going to see. Oof. Template does not exist. Blogs post form. Yeah, so it is looking for it to be not have a templates folder. So if we did this, I believe it would work directly. We're not going to do that, though. I just wanted to see if we can get it to postform.html. Put that in the right spot. Ooh, actually, you know what it might be? Actually, I think I was wrong. I think that it's looking for something like this. Yeah, it is. Cool. So the structure way to do it is we did templates, and then we did the app name, and then we did our HTML. Right, so by default, that's what it's looking for. Yes?
So how is one to look at the template as view thing, that you did, be like, well, I only need this dot as view. How are you supposed to realize that the second argument is supposed to be a function? And then, like, come up with the idea that you're going to, oh, I need a blog folder. Like, how do
So-
you come to those conclusions when you don't have any experience?
Yeah. So for the first one, if you had tried template name, you would have just gotten an error, right? Or it might have even worked, and then you could have gotten it working with the template name function. As far as the knowing that the path, the second one is needs to be a function, we would look up path Django.
Which email did you send it
I sent it to his Clemson email. All right, we'll see path.
to?
So this view, wow. I actually want to look at path. Oh, actually, maybe we can go to, can I go to declaration here? Let's see, it is in Django.urls. Yeah, so it says right here, the view argument is a view function, or the result is as view for class-based views. So I mean, it would really just be a matter of you would go and you would look at your path function, right, and see what the first argument is and what the second one is. So then you'd go down here, you'd read through it, you read through it, you read through it, you would get to this, and you'd be like, what's an as view? And click there, and then you would see my view dot as view. You'd be like, oh, okay, well, I saw that with the template view, but this one doesn't have an argument. And you would sort of go from there, figuring that out. So you asked 3 questions. I think I've answered 2. So the first question you asked was, how could we know that there'd be no template? That doesn't necessarily need to be an argument. And the answer to that would be that you would try it, and it would fail, or you would figure out how to get it working by actually specifying the template there, which is fine. The second question was, how would we find what the appropriate argument for the second one is? And the answer to that was we would go and we would look at the documentation for path, and we would read this explanation. And I forget what the third question is. Can you remind me?
Oh, just that you created the blog folder, you were like, oh, they just probably want it to be like this.
Yeah, so the way that I knew that is I'm going to actually recreate the error so that we can see it again. So I looked here and I was like, okay. So we've got blog/post underscore forum.html. At first I was like, okay, well, blog is the name of our app. So I then tried, well, let's just put it in our, here, right? Because that's the only blog, that's the fastest way I can think of to get a path that looks like blog/post underscore forum.html. But then I refresh that and no dice. So then I'm like, okay, well, but yesterday we specified everything in our templates folder. So maybe it's saying that it needs this path in the templates, right? So then I made that there and just tested it. And the prediction was correct. So that was sort of my thinking as I was going through there. But it also helps that I've seen that error a dozen times. Cool, so let's test it. So my blog post, the body to my blog post. Oof, no URL to redirect to. Terrible. So we have no idea what this is. So we're going to Google it. And hope Stack Overflow saves us. We skip past this person because, I mean, they clearly don't have the answer. Best way to add a method called getSuccessURL on the create view. Okay, and that sort of makes sense, right? Like after your create view has saved, where should it go next? So it makes sense that we would have to tell it where to go. So we're just going to copy this getSuccessURL. We're going to go to our view, we'll paste it in, and we're going to say that we want it to go. I'm not going to introduce that right now because it's confusing. So we're going to say we want it to go to, well, that's going to give us a 404 at the moment. So why don't we define a, after we create it, where do you guys think it should take you to? To where? To the blog. So like to the list view. Okay. So let's make a list view. List. Let's copy that. Let's see. Oh. List view. Actually, let's say post list. Class post list, and I'm gonna make a bet here that if we look up Django list view generic, that we'll get something here. So list view, scroll down. Okay, this looks promising. So let's implement it just like the other one was. So we call this post list. We'll import the list view here. And it's not going to autocomplete for me for some reason. Okay, cool. I will just say model equals post. I'm not going to list any pagination because I don't care. And so we probably need to make a template for that too. Let's scroll down. Okay, good. So it gives us an idea of what our template can be. So we'll make a new file, and we'll make sure they're following their standards. So it should be called postlist.html. Notice the difference between what we're doing, what we have done in the last few days and today. Today is way more about, Django has said, hey, we've got this really cool functionality built as long as you follow these standards and this convention, right? So essentially what we're doing is we're just making sure that we're following the Django standards to get this very generic functionality so that we only have to specify what's important to us, right? The model you want to be going with for your projects is anything that you can use generic Django stuff for, you should. And when you need to get specific, you can default back to your function views. So this doesn't make sense to be called article. So well, actually, I guess it does. Yeah, article post. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Post list. So let's test it. Looks like we've. Where are you thinking? Oh, okay, yeah. So I should explain that. In a generic view, unless you specify otherwise, it's actually going to give you objects underscore list every time. So it doesn't. So the variable name, so you don't have to make any changes here to make it work.
But the dot names, update, headline.
Yes, the attributes have to be changed. So, oh, that's cool. I wish we had time to go into that. So let's say, what was it? We had title and body. Okay, cool. So now we can just set our success URL. To blog/list. Yes?
So far, what you've done is nothing more than you could have done with a functional view.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming that we are importing from generics,
That yes, or continue.
So we just haven't seen it yet.
Well, it's not even so. These are called generics for a reason, right? It's basically giving you a way to do CRUD on any model extremely quickly, right? It also, and this exists for everything. So we defined forms in HTML yesterday. You can do that with a class in Django, right? You can define a class for your model, a class for your view, and we're not going to cover this because we don't have time today, but you can actually do things like create list view. And you could literally have like one class or two classes and just your model and then a class for your form and like create, read, update, destroy is done.
That's giving you your CRUD functionality as part of the model you're in, right?
Yes, right.
You don't have to define those, okay.
Well, notice that we were able to get to CRUD with so much less code and so much faster than we were yesterday, right? And everything is going to be about that easy as we're going through here. This is sort of I'm showing you what this is just one level of abstraction above what we did yesterday. Now, for more advanced users, you can also do this to create some like very interesting designs, right? So you can define a class that inherits from create view, and you can have something inherent from that, right? There's also something called mixins, which you can use for multiple inheritance. So say you have a mixin where you have it parse some data, and you want that data available everywhere, right? You can now add that to your other classes, and anywhere that you add that, the data will be available. So this is the what we did yesterday was sort of, or what we've been doing is behind the scenes. How do you do things specifically? How are you going to handle complex edge cases, right? Because function views are very good at that. What we're doing today is how do we do things very fast, right? And what you guys will hopefully get into, from reading the documentation, learning this, and taking this to its fullest extent is how to do even very complex tasks extremely quickly. Yeah. But today we're just going to focus on getting to the functionality we had yesterday with as little code as possible. So we'll go to our create. We'll make hey, how, save, and takes us there. So create list view done in way less time. And I know I'm going sort of fast. My plan for today, because we're going to cover so much material in the next 30 minutes, is to have this recorded and have the link set up so that you can rewatch different sections. So we have a section for URLs, one for create and list view, and now we're going to do delete and update. Are there any questions on anything we've gone over thus far? Okay. Okay, how should we do our update view? Any suggestions on how to get started? Okay, we can do that. I'm pretty sure it's in generics edit, but I need to make sure. Yeah, it is.
Is there not just a generic CRUD? You always have them all together. I'm surprised Django doesn't just provide.
Yes, there are. So there is, right? Remember when I was showing a second ago, like you're going to be able to do create and list, right, and update all in the same one. But I think that that's going to go above most people at this point, right? When you learn this, we're trying to sort of learn this, then move one layer of abstraction up, right? Learn that, because eventually you can get to something that REST framework offers, which is called view sets, where you can just define like insane amounts of functionality very quickly. Cool. So we import it. What next? We have an update view. Does anyone have a guess on what the next thing we should do is? Okay. What do you want to call it? Update post. I like it. It's a little bit different from the other ones, but okay. Yeah, I do like that more. I want to be consistent. What do you think we need to define on this based on the other ones? Well, okay, so this one also has a form. So we also had a form for create, and we also probably need a place for the update view to go afterwards. So what two things do we need to define on our update view? Someone who hasn't answered. We know that this is going to have a form because it's updating something, right? The only other view we have that has a form is create. So we're going to make the assumption that there's going to be more similarity between this create and between this update than there is between the create and the list. So knowing that it has a form, what should we specify on our update view? Thank you. I mean, like, yeah, like this. This is a form. So if we well, I mean, it's literally a form tag. Yeah, but yes, something that can receive text. Okay. Are we ready to try our update view? Yes. And a URL to redirect back to, so we want to define a success URL. We'll just keep that the same for now. And we don't actually have a URL for our update view, so let's go ahead and add one. Now, but this is going to be a little bit different, right? Because if we're updating something, we have to tell it what we're updating. And the way that we did that last time is by having the ID in the URL. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and pray to the documentation that it will save us, and it did not. So we're going to Google update view, URL, Django, without a PKN URL. We do not. We do want a PKN URL. No, it won't. No. Does this guy have the answer we need? Wow. That is way more complicated than it needs to be, guy. Let's see. Okay, so here they're doing an author update, and they're doing this int pk. So we're gonna pray to the Django gods that that is standard. We're gonna try it. Okay, so we have made one before, and we haven't deleted any. So we should have one. I'll do update 1. Cool. So can we? My blog is great. Cool, so update seems to be working. Did anyone notice something about the template? It used the same form template that the create did. Low key, didn't know it was going to do that. Or I didn't quite remember that. I thought you had to configure it manually. That's always fun. Okay. Let's go to our list and let's add some links. Yeah. So we'll say, wow, I cannot get Emmett to work. I'm really sad. Jake, you'll have to help me fix that. So we've got an anchor tag, log slash update slash article dot ID. So now we should be able to click on this and go to where we can update it. Cool.
What if it's templates instead of one template in there?
Mhm.
Just defaults to that same one template, and you add additional templates. That's when you have to actually configure it manually to go on.
Yes, as long as you're following the Django standard, right, according to their documentation, it'll go there directly. Cool. What's the last thing we need to be able to do? We have create, we have destroy. There actually, I don't remember which framework it is. Maybe it's Django. I know there is one where you actually do .destroy whenever you delete a model. But it's either Django or Rails or Flat. I don't.
I think Aurelia does.
Okay, I could see it. What is that?
Aurelia, it's a guy who goes on the Angular original team, and he
Oh, I see.
kind of falling out with Google and went off to create his own. It's actually a pretty cool framework.
I believe it. There's some interesting frameworks out there. Okay, so we want to be able to delete view. Oh, look at that. Okay. We're just gonna straight up copy that. I'm gonna put delete view here. Copy this. We're gonna change the success URL. Well, that's interesting. So this is a little bit different from the, I bet we could define just success URL here too, instead of doing overriding get success. Make a note of time. Okay, so we're gonna say post delete, say post, takes us back to the blog list, and let's call that delete. Oh, is that post update? We'll change that to post delete as here. And let's go back to the Django documentation. We'll just copy that. We'll go to our list here. There. Article. Let's try it. Yikes. Okay. Oh, I see. So this is just that's just a confirmation page. So we do need to make a new template here. And it's just gonna be a page where they'll ask like, are you sure you want to delete this? Ideally, actually, you would integrate that into an alert using JavaScript, but we're not gonna demonstrate that at the moment. So we'll say file post delete form.html. Let make sure. Oh, post confirm delete. Let's rename it. Post confirm delete. paste that in there. We'll change that back to object because that's the generic term that's being used by Django, unless we specify otherwise. Refresh this. So now we need a link to our delete. So we'll just add another one here that says href. It's going to be almost exactly the same as this, except delete.
We can also make that a button.
Very easy. We're going to do that after lunch, though. Confirm. Cool. So we've done create, read, update, destroy in 35 minutes. So that is the blog part. We're going to do a second half, which is going to be an hour, but we're going to do that after lunch.